welcome to Procurement Pivots, the podcast for procurement professionals wanting to navigate change successfully and create career success on your own terms. I'm Donna Bowden, procurement career coach and founder of Narrate Your Career.
And I'm Laura Sellers, executive coach for procurement and founder of Coaching for Procurement. And between us, we bring almost 25 years of supporting and working with procurement professionals. And it's fair to say we've navigated many of our own career pivots along the way. And now we're here to help you do the same.
Each episode will share practical strategies, honest conversations, and expert insights to help you confidently tackle the changes and challenges in your procurement career.
Let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to our latest episode of the Procurement Pivots podcast. We're excited to be here today, and today's topic to discuss and delve deeper into is ownership, isn't it, Laura?
Yes, ownership, I guess, linked with accountability and just really taking some control back over careers and leadership.
Yeah. And I think, particularly right now with the world that we're in, particularly right now with how much, how challenging it can be to work in procurement at all levels, actually. We just think this is a really, really important topic that can really, help you to continue in your growth in your career, even in very difficult, challenging times, actually. So, where are we going to begin on today's episode?
Well, I guess, what's an interesting thing is that when somebody comes to coaching, right, they've been working in their procurement role for a while, they might be looking for a change, whatever that change looks like. They've come because they want something to be different. And that's already the first step to ownership, right? Is that realizing I need to do something different here. If you do what you've always did, you'll get what you always got. And I think that's a lot of what my clients come to me with, and assuming maybe that's the same for yourself, but where it's like, okay, something needs to change. They might not know what it is, but they recognize that A, they need help, and B, they need to do something about it. And that's what ownership is, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's, just being more intentional, isn't it? And kind of taking back control. And I think when we thought about this topic, for us, the start point was, really taking ownership of your career as a start. I think, we've said it time and time again, and I'm sure, we'll keep hearing it on these podcasts, but also, from people in procurement. I fell into procurement. How many times do we all hear that? And that's the thing. It's like, actually, many people, it wasn't an intentional decision to start in procurement, but actually it's taking ownership of that decision to stay, and kind of, how you want to create your career for your future as well, what you want it to look like right now. But, it's kind of, really, really taking ownership of where you want to head in a climate where, let's be honest, it's much harder to progress. It's harder to, climb the traditional ladder. It's harder to be given, almost like kind of sideways moves, because there aren't as many opportunities as there always has been. And I think also, years ago, companies were pushing the kind of learning and development much more than what many of them are able to right now. And so I think now, if growing in your career and progressing in your career is really important to you, I think it's really down to you as an individual to kind of take ownership of that and kind of decide what that looks like for you.
And I think it can be really hard to take ownership, right? I'm going to name that elephant in the room, because there are things that we can feel like they happen to us, right? There's certain things in our career, we didn't get a role we thought we deserved, or it was a particular person that within the organization that we feel might have stunted our career growth. So that can be really difficult. So what we're not saying here that taking ownership of everything that's happened, if it wasn't always at your hands, isn't the solution here. But for me, ownership is in owning your response to whatever comes your way, and ownership in the action that you take with that response to make the change you're looking for, to have the difficult conversation, And sometimes that's a difficult conversation with yourself, but I digress.
Yeah.
But I think that it's really clear, or sorry, for me, it's really important to make that clear about what ownership is. Like, own the parts that are yours to take action on, and
Yeah.
recognize that some of those challenges that have been put your way might not have been fair or at your hands or anything else, but it's part of our role as coaches is to help you. Well, it is our role as coaches to help you move forward and move forward with confidence and with courage. So ownership is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and I think that kind of, what is for us to influence and control versus those external kind of things, like that is really important to make that differentiation. And I think right now, like there's so many external factors that are being kind of thrown at people, really, all this change, transformation, restructures, difficult job markets, pressures on procurement, but procurement's under resourced, so it's like greater expectation with less resource. Like there's lots and lots and lots of constant external external factors, but like you say, like as individuals, like a lot of those things aren't within our control, but it's actually, and that can be really chaotic and stressful and difficult, but actually how do you respond, and how do you kind of take ownership of that.
Mm.
I'll use a kind of a very very current, very real example with a lot of the work that I'm doing in supporting procurement leaders with their next move
Mm.
internally and externally. And the thing that just constantly comes up time and time again is the market. Like we know the market is really really difficult, like that's a fact. Like it definitely has been the most difficult it's been over the last few years, albeit there have been some signs in some places of improvement. Like it's really really tough. And I think that is a real thing, but also people are still securing roles. And I think, sometimes to just focus and just focus on that kind of the voice, the market's tough, the market's tough, the market's tough. Like actually, if you don't then take your own ownership of that situation, you're just hearing the market's tough, believing the market's tough, acting like the market's tough, and it is. But actually, I think, taking ownership is the market's tough. What am I going to do in a tough
Mm.
market? How can I influence my ability to still move forward in the way that I want to move forward in my career, despite those external factors? And for me, that is the big difference. It's like, yeah, I get it, the market's tough, but what can I do differently to actually still feel like I'm building momentum and moving forward, regardless?
Yeah, that's a great point because again, it's a hurdle, right? The market being tough. We're not saying it's not true. We're not saying to bury it, to ignore it. And the same internally, when you're battling challenges internally, let's just say perceptions of procurement is a thing, or the exec buy-in, whoever it is, we're not saying, oh, ignore it, it doesn't exist. Yeah, there's no toxic positivity when it comes to coaching for me, and I've had that leveled at me before. Oh, coaching is just toxic positivity. And internally I'm thinking, have you met me? Have you met me? Like I embrace all emotions, so it took me a while to sort of know how to position that myself as a coach, but also in my own mind, just around this isn't about saying, ah, yeah, okay, ignore all that, just focus on what you can control and nothing else. It's about recognizing, acknowledging, yes, the market's tough. I can control this bit. This bit's out of my control, but I'm recognizing it. It's there. What am I going to do to
Yeah,
navigate it? Because you need to be aware of those challenges to know what your next moves are in those navigations. So
yeah.
in those pivots, not navigations, pivots.
Absolutely. Say it
Pivots,
again.
pivots, Ross and our friends, pivots. So I think it's a mindset shift. Absolutely. It's something around what can I do? Let's just strip it back. We're overwhelmed by all the things that are going on in the organization and
Yeah,
and in the market. Let's strip it back. Strip it back and think about, okay, what bit can I own? Well, I can
yeah,
own preparing myself to position myself in for a different role. I can own the way that I respond to that stakeholder who absolutely drives me bonkers. You know, that there's and to me, there's empowerment within that. So
Mm,
if you take ownership of it, you're giving yourself choice. You're giving yourself something, okay, I can
yeah,
just work on this one tiny little thing rather than feel absolutely flooded and overwhelmed by the
yeah,
big stuff, the stuff that feels really big and out of our control, and that it
yeah.
feels, you know, like we're swimming against the tide. Whatever other
Mm.
metaphors I want to throw in here, it's definitely something around stripping it back and just focusing on like one step, that first
Yeah,
step to take ownership.
yeah. And how good can that feel when you've identified what that thing is, and then you do the thing and you
Yeah,
keep doing the thing and you see the progress? Like it feels great.
yeah,
You know, it does. It's like, despite all of this noise around me, I'm
yeah,
still moving forward with that thing that I've determined is really important to me.
yes.
And I think, that's the thing as well, isn't it? It's like, it's working out like, what are those things that you care about most? What are those things that are going to turn the dial most for you personally? Like
Mm.
for me, what are the things that are going to make you enjoy what you do more? Like what are the things that are going to take away some of the frustrations? We don't have a magic wand. Like, it's probably not going to take them all away, but what are those things that you can do just to improve your enjoyment of whatever it is you're doing? And it's kind of, yeah, choosing what you take ownership of, and then just enjoying the process of influencing that thing and seeing it grow and
Mm.
seeing it build.
It's so funny you say that because I had a conversation with it was a coaching session this morning where they were saying they actually felt so much more connected to their role and feeling enjoyment in stuff that they used to feel overwhelmed by because they'd done other things like what we've spoken about in previous episodes with the values episode that we've done
Yeah,
recently as an example. So taking that ownership is a core component of all the other things that we've talked about in other episodes. And this is about giving you control, it's about giving you power.
yeah.
And I think procurement, especially, can feel like it's got this extra hurdle in front of itself in terms of perceptions, in terms of, they
Mm.
might be building something from the ground up. So you feel like you're already climbing a really rocky mountain and you're already swimming against the tide. I'm doing it again with my metaphors, but,
We need a board, I think, to
yeah,
write them down. Maybe we
metaphors
could get
check.
really, like flashy, and they could pop up on the screen when you say them. Da-la-la!
Laura's cheesy phrases coming out. But it's yeah, I just think this is really around just giving some empowerment, some control back to the individuals when these last few years have been tough,
Yeah, they
and
really
when
have.
and going back to your it's a tough market thing, let's not ignore it, but let's not make it control everything else that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, instilling some calm and some control in this chaotic, challenging world that we're finding ourselves in can just, it can be really reassuring. And yeah, I just think it's everything really right now, to be honest. Like, and so many of the clients that I work with, like, they are coming with quite a lot of regret, I would say, and regret that they hadn't been more intentional earlier. And we can't change the past, we can change the future. And starting at any point makes a massive difference. And it's obviously not great to have that regret, but I think just so many people that I speak to, they look back and they're like, you know why didn't I take control of that situation? Why did I allow myself to keep working in that environment that was grinding me down, 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 knocking my confidence, burning me out, and just not taking action before they did take action? And the great thing is now that they can recognize the signs, and they, can put those kind of measures in place to kind of look out for it in the
Mm.
future, and recognize, actually, how if you're feeling that way in the future, because sometimes it's not obvious until it's really obvious, but it happens, like, it compounds, doesn't it? Little bit, like these things often they don't get better by themselves. They generally get worse and sometimes quite quickly.
Yeah, and I think, I just want to pick up on that regret thing because regret as an emotion can be quite an uncomfortable one. It
Mm,
can feel very self-critical. And if we were to create some distance between that emotion and actually the objective bits we can control, it's around using the regret as data, using that emotion as data for where have we seen that, but where's that regret really hitting us? Okay,
mm,
what can we do that's different there? And again, it's bringing back that ownership and actually accepting and going back to what I was saying earlier about accepting that tough markets happen,
yeah,
recessions happen, difficult stakeholders happen. It's bringing it back to, okay, that's the impact it's having. How can I respond to that differently?
yeah,
It's
definitely.
not about eradicating the challenges. We'd love to,
Mm.
wouldn't we? We'd love it all to be brilliant all the
No
time.
want,
Woo!
yeah.
But that's not the reality of life. It's
No,
not the reality of careers. And my word, how many of us went into the working world in corporate life, even if we fell into something or not,
yeah.
about, oh, well, you just work hard, you get tapped on the shoulder when it's your turn to move up to the next level. And it just isn't reality. Like you said
Mm,
earlier, the opportunities are different, the working world is different. And yeah, this is about bringing it back to the individual, right? What can we take ownership of, and how can we, I'm going to steal your company phrase, narrate your career, and woohoo! But I think it's also, it is just about giving you choice. And when we
yeah,
have choice, we can find those moments that help us to enjoy what we're doing at the
yeah,
same time.
yeah. And just coming back to that kind of regret piece, and and also a lot of the work that I'm doing with my clients, it is like, you know, lots of people, they wait till they're looking for a job, they start applying for jobs. But actually, for me, it's about, how can you position yourself for those future moves before you want them, before you need them? How can you set yourself up for success in advance? And how can you take control of those things? And so, coming back to the ownership piece, like, unfortunately, like, we have seen so many more procurement functions and roles be affected by restructures and redundancy in procurement. So many more over the last few years, like unprecedented amounts, to be honest. And I think, like, actually knowing as an individual, I am living in uncertain times, and it appears that I'm in a business that's doing very well, and actually there is longevity to my role, but we just don't know. Like, we just don't know what's around the corner, and sometimes restructures happen in businesses that are doing well. It's not just about where businesses aren't doing well. And so, future proofing, taking ownership of, okay, how would I like to feel if something changed in my job suddenly and I suddenly wanted to put myself on the market? What would I want that to look and feel like? Well, ideally, you'd want choice, you'd want to have a network, you'd want to already have established, a reputation for yourself internally, yes, externally. So it's like, actually, like, yeah, kind of, my work, yes, it helps those people that are in that moment right now, but actually a big part of it is like, how can you take ownership for those future moves and set yourself up now and do the work now, so that, yeah, you're protecting yourself against
Mm,
those external factors that, whilst we don't want to think about the thing that could happen, like, it could happen. Like, so many
mm,
people are getting that call from HR suddenly, sometimes, kind of expectedly, sometimes it is out of the blue.
mm,
You've been working for a company for 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, and you just get that call. And I've had, like, some people I've worked with, they were literally out the door within like 15 minutes, having worked in a business. It's like conversation out, and
yeah.
it's like, we just don't know. And this isn't like scaremongery, but we are living in really much more uncertain times than we've experienced previously. And it's like, control and ownership is about kind of, looking a bit to the future and kind of just thinking, what are the things that I can do now that just give me choice and give me
Mm.
I keep saying control, but I'm going to say it, give me ownership, give me control of my own destiny. It's kind of creating the path for yourself, and putting those pathways in place before you want them, before you need them.
Yeah, and I think when you say about future proofing, going back to our values episode as an example, it's about knowing yourself and knowing what aligns with what you're looking for. And I can't believe I'm going to do this again
Are
because
you?
I'm going to do
Are
this
you
again.
actually?
I'm actually going to do it. I'm actually going to do it. Right. Well, actually, no, it's not a metaphor, is it? Yes, it is. It's the car thing, right? So I again,
Oh, I thought you was going to say narrate your career again. I was
oh
like, come on.
no, no,
I was like,
oh,
this
I'm
is like
sorry to
literally the best free
disappoint.
advertising for my business. Come on.
No, okay, so no, right. Yes, narrate your career, everybody. Narrate your career. And also get coaching for procurement, just to put mine in there as well. No, so I was gonna go back to the metaphors. We need to have a tally for how many metaphors that Laura uses in an episode.
Yes.
But this
Oh,
is
I love
around,
that.
but this comes back to a coaching session this morning, right? We were talking about
120.
so no, I think what I was going to say. So I've lost my thread now. So with
Oh,
the car analogy. So when you have done this work, so this future proofing, whatever stage you're at, anything we do in coaching is not just for the moment that we're in the coaching. This is about future proofing.
mm,
But if you do that work on yourself, and I bring up the values again, I bring up the other topics that we've talked about so far in this podcast is that all of a sudden other opportunities become visible. So I'm coming to the car analogy now. So I decided that when it was time for me to buy my first ever car, I was walking around, and I saw this Audi A1, just this little A1 in an Amalfi white colour. I'd never seen it before. I'm not very good with cars. I don't know what the greatest cars are or anything like that. But when it comes to colours, I just love the colour of it. And I'd never seen it before. And lo and behold, I saw it everywhere after that. So,
mm,
and this is the thing, it's about the thing where if your eyes are open to it, you start to recognize it, you start to see it more, and your lenses were just shut off to them before. So, all of this future proofing and taking ownership of who you want to be as a procurement professional, who you want to be in your leadership, means that once you have a good sense of foundation, solid foundations of who you are, what works for you, what your strengths are, all of a sudden you see opportunities that weren't there open to you before. I
mm.
got there eventually with the car analogy. I'm gonna make a promise to not use any more metaphors in the rest of this episode. I can't promise for future ones. Over
I
to you,
mean,
Donna.
the episode I feel is literally over. So that is like, it's not the greatest ever promise. Um,
In that case,
However, no, go on, get one in.
no,
Put
no,
me
I was
under
gonna say,
pressure.
no, I was gonna say in that case, should we wrap it up then?
I think so. So takeaways then today.
Apart from how much I rely on metaphors. It is like, so for me, ownership isn't about denying the difficulties. It's
Mm,
about owning your response to them and taking control back. There's mine.
yeah,
What about you?
yeah. Yeah, and I guess, look, there's only so many hours in the day. We can't take ownership of everything at
Mm,
once or ever. So it's about understanding what are the priorities and what is the thing, what are the things maybe that are most important that you're
mm,
just going to focus on at that moment in time. And yes, of course, we can do multiple things, but actually, you know, if you're starting this kind of, looking at this from a fresh pair of eyes, it's like be kind to yourself as well, and don't try and like, you know reinvent the wheel. And
mm,
it's like, don't make it the biggest grandest thing. It's like, small actions compound and they make a massive difference over time. And so it's yeah, just kind of working out like, where is it you're going to most benefit from taking more ownership than what you are right now,
mm,
and then doing something with that and
mm.
watch it hopefully
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah. Brilliant. Great. Thank you, Donna. I am taking another promise to, like I say, for future episodes, not to put in as many metaphors, although I quite like them. So I will
I mean,
try.
that's a blatant lie.
Yeah, very true.
Anyway.
Very true. Honesty is one of my core values. Anyway, let's go.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank
Right,
you for
take care.
tuning in. All
Bye
right. See
bye.
you later. Bye bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Procurement Pivots. We hope today's episode gave you actionable tips to help you to continue to move forward in your procurement career.
If you enjoyed the conversation, follow our episodes, share them with others, and please support us on our social media channels for others that might be interested to tune in.